Anytime.
Good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers both practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise here is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge how the labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants, who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow, all contributed to so much of what we know in this country today, including culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labors and sacrifices, and we acknowledge the tremors of the violence from that and the impact throughout the generations that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris. This very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room. So now we are at the time of the service where we're going to take a moment of pause with our meditation. Meditation is one of several spiritual practices that we can engage in, one that we can pull out. So to prepare, just allow ourselves to get comfortable wherever we are. Allow ourselves to have a greater awareness of our breath. Rather than simply breathing unconsciously, to breathe in and out. As we breathe in, allow the air to fill our chest. And as we breathe out, to allow the chest to fall. Breathing in, chest rises up. And with each breath in, the heart rate slightly increases. And with each breath out, the heart rate slightly decreases. And in this breath, allow ourselves to just become aware of our physical circumstances, is there any place in the body that feels tight? That if we just put our attention on it, we can allow it to relax a little bit, to loosen up. Our bodies carry us through the course of our lives. So with the memories in our mind, those memories may be associated with stories and with feelings that we have locked into our bodies. So with a sense of graciousness, just allow ourselves to appreciate all that our body has carried us through. We often live with a keen awareness of things that happen to us. The way that we are in the world has invited the world to respond to us in certain ways. So in Western society, in the United States, there's a difference between how men experience the world and how women experience the world. Societies have shaped what gets called normal. And then whatever falls outside of that, society has put less value there. So perhaps there are places and ways that you've found yourself fighting against what's been called normal. Fighting to stand in your true identity. Fighting to assert your experience as perfect. And in the midst of how the world, how society has treated us, we may have feelings of pride, we may have feelings of regret. As we breathe in a sense of pride for our identities. As we breathe out, allow ourselves to release the regrets. Regrets perhaps for ways we've acted. Regrets perhaps for the ways that the world has treated us. That has had very little to do with who we are as persons, but how we look, where we come from. Just in that process of breathing in and breathing out, breathe into that sense of pride, and breathe out, releasing those regrets. While our histories may inform us, how far do we want to carry our regrets, our resentments? How do we want to spend our energy in this moment? Breathing in that pride, breathing out those resentments, breathing out those regrets, so that there's space for something more. For a deeper appreciation of our truest selves. And just as our chest rises and we expand, let ourselves rise and expand in all the good we are. And as we release that, knowing that the good that we are, knowing that the expansion we are has impacted our world, has impacted our universe. And in that place of gratitude, allow yourself to come back to your body. Allow yourself to come back to the room. And say Ashe,
Ashe,
Amen. And so it is.
Meeting to say down.
You're the one that's sharing.
I know I am sharing.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Forgot to start earlier.
So thank you for participating in the meditation. And now we have our declaration.
Can you show it up there?
No. What's showing is the internet, Jeffrey's Prayer Exchange.
Let's try to... More better? More better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do just like that size. That's good.
Please join me. We're going to go through this 3 times. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And finally, we are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is. Today's reading comes from a woman named Anne Rusnick. It's called 8 Ways to Accept Your Past and Move Forward. 8 Ways to Accept Your Past and Move Forward. Each one of us has experiences upsetting us at one time or another. For a while, you can cope with your negative experience by pushing it from mind. Eventually, though, something triggers the negative experiences back into our thoughts and feelings. How can you deal with past negative events so you can move forward? Consider these 8 tips to make peace with our past. 1. Tell ourselves, it is what it is. Whatever the disturbing experience, it happened to us. Acknowledge it. At least accept the fact that it happened. 2. Identify our own emotions regarding the situation. Ponder the variety of feeling labels: disappointment, anger, fear, resentment. Those are some examples. How did we feel then? What goes on with us emotionally when we think about the event now? Embrace all of our feelings. Number 3. It's okay to feel whatever we feel. We're human. We have the right to feel scared, angry, frustrated, or any other feelings. We give ourselves permission to embrace the emotions we experience relating to our pasts. Awareness into our emotions allows us to understand how something from the past can impact us now. 4. Recognize we can protect ourselves now. We can ensure that events won't happen to us again. Seek and find the comfort and grace in our current situations. 5. Determine if we're truly ready to let go of this part of our past. Can we release it into the wind and say, it happened, but it no longer defines me? Only we can make the decision to release this negativity from our lives for good. Of course, the memory will remain, but the negativity can all dissipate when we recognize and understand what happened. We can think of a symbolic way to release our personal distress, so we can start fresh from this day forward. We might want to write down our trauma, and then tear it up into tiny pieces and throw them away, or burn the paper. Living our lives consciously in the present, staying in the here and now, vowing to live our best life each day is a powerful antidote to our painful past. We can say goodbye to the negativity as we let it go. We can replace it with positive thoughts or experiences. We can vow to stay in each moment to relish the beauty of everything that we have that's wholesome and special to us. We can go after our bliss. Our bliss is something that brings us interest, joy, pleasure, and even excitement. Seek out the things we love to do, places we love to go, and people we love to be with. Use our time on this earth to fulfill our greatest passions. Place reminders of our bliss everywhere to be pleasantly reminded of everything we love. Number 8, the final one. Avoid letting anything stop us. Even though we may still have contact with someone who has hurt us in the past, recognize that we hold the keys for how our life journey continues from this point forward. Making peace with our histories is a highly rewarding experience. Learning to recognize and let go of emotions connected with our traumas may lead to a more enriched life. Live in the present, go after our bliss, pursue our lives with renewed sense of responsibility, making peace with our past now so we can embrace a beautiful, fulfilling life. Stay unstoppable. And so it is.
So it is.
Woohoo! I was a little disoriented that you put this on the screen while I was reading.
Oh.
Well, I'm just saying it's... Okay, our chant for this month, as you have seen, is, well, I've never done this before. No, I've never seen this before. I've never hoped this. I've never been this before. But now it is possible. Now I can try. My life makes it possible. My reason why. I'm so much more than what can ever be known. Well, I've never done this before. No, I've never seen this before. I've never hoped this. I've never been this before. But now it is possible. Now I can try. My life makes it possible. My reason why. I'm so much more than what can ever be known. Now you. Well, you've never done this before. No, you've never seen this before. You've never hoped this. You've never been this before. But now it is possible. Now you can try. Your life makes it possible. Your reason why. You're so much more than what can ever be known. Now we've never done this before. No, we've never seen this before. We've never hoped this. We've never been this before. But now it is possible. Now we can try. Our lives make it possible. Our reason why. We're so much more than what can ever be known. Now back to I. I've never done this before. No, I've never seen this before. I've never hoped this. I've never been this before. But now it is possible. Now I can try. My life makes it possible. My reason why. I'm so much more than what can ever be known.
Good morning. Before we get going, while we were sitting there in meditation, something came to mind that I'd like to do before we play the first song. And that is to take a moment of silence for peace throughout the world, particularly the Middle East, and holding the Israelis and the Palestinians in our hearts, in our minds, knowing peace for them, knowing that at least a temporary ceasefire could take place, but ultimately a permanent ceasefire, so that they may live in peace and in harmony. And all this to take place prior to the start of their holy celebration of Ramadan, which starts tomorrow. So just take a moment and hold them in our hearts. Those who have lost loved ones, those that have been lost. I say this with love and peace in my heart, and so it is.
I was my own speedbump up until now. I didn't love myself enough, I didn't know how. I'm so over tears, negativity and fears, and every thought that held me down. Up until now, up until now. I used to think someone like me could never have the best. I'd walk into a banquet, then I'd settle for what's left. Nowadays you'll find me right in front, arms open wide. First in line, last to leave, claiming what is mine. I was my own speed bump up until now. I didn't love myself enough, I didn't know how. I'm so over tears, negativity and fears, and every thought that held me down. Up until now, up until now. I used to think in romance I didn't have a prayer. My friends all played the game of hearts, I played solitaire. These days in my life, my dance card is filled up. I've learned that love's like chocolate, you can never have enough. So long to the things I once believed. Bye bye past,
So today, this month, we're focusing on the theme that that's how we've never done it. And today's focus is on, let's do this, trying to separate pages. Up until now, the title of the song, up until now. And we're gonna acknowledge our past, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I always like that term because years and years ago I saw the movie. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And you think about it, because in our lives we have all these, we have the good, we have the bad, we have some things that are kind of ugly. Well, disentangling ourselves from the past. It's time to forgive and release old patterns, We have all these things that we've hung on to for years and years and years. We refer to it as old baggage. And sometimes those trunks can get, not bags, but trunks, sometimes get so full and so heavy, we can't move. And we're talking about even those that used to work well. If they no longer serve us, they worked well at that time, but right now, in the present, they don't serve us anymore, so we don't, why carry them around? The Buddha taught that attachment, with its complement and resistance, was the root of all suffering. When we honor our past and learn from it, without attachment or resistance, we move freely into the future. So we have more energy, we have more abilities, we have more get up and go, because we're not carrying all this luggage around. Ernest Holmes said that principle is not bound by precedent. I am not bound by all my past thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, because I am in today, I am in this moment, I am in the present. So I don't have to act and be who I was in the past. Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. And we can add something to that. We can say, with God, all things are possible. We can add in us, through us, and as us. Because we are that expression of God. So the possibilities come through us and go through us. When we lean into these truths, we open to new possibilities and accept a bigger, fuller, more joyful, and abundant life. We accept that because we're not carrying all this crap around. And we have room, like in our closets. If you want to get more clothes, where are you going to put them if your closet's jam-packed full? Well, I'll tell you what we did. We took a room and made it a closet. So yeah, you can do that, or you can take out what you don't need, what you haven't worn in say a couple of months, 6 months, a year, 10 years. Open up and make the space. When I was drinking, one of the things that fueled my fire to drink, that was good, was regretting the things I didn't do or that I did do. Getting on my pity pot, well, I should have done this, or I did this, and all these things of basically beating ourselves up. That gave me the incentive, because with the alcohol, it would numb a lot of those things, or would just inflame them, and they would go up like a big bonfire. The philosopher George Santayana said, "Those who remember the past are condemned to repeat it." We don't have to remain its prisoners. We can acknowledge our past with 3 simple words: up until now. And claim a better, higher experience of God's good for ourselves today. We can claim that good, because it is ours. In AA, you have the 12 steps, you have the 12 traditions, and then you have the 12 promises. And I just thought of that this morning when I was going through my talk, that there was one in there. And this one says, this is promise number 3, we will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. As that philosopher had said too, you know, if we forget it, then we're bound to repeat it. So in this promise that not forgetting the past or not regretting it is because we can't go back and change it. We cannot go back and undo what we did or what we didn't do. So we accept it and we move on. It's kind of like I was talking with Reverend Vaughn before service, and it's like all these past lives that I refer to sometimes, that you go back 10 years and look at your life and look at yourself. And most likely you're going to find that you are not the same person that you were back then. And you go back 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. You're going to see that you change, you've grown. And not allowing by the past to hold you back. And do you ever hear yourself saying, I know I have heard this myself do this too, like I've always done it this way, I've always, yada, 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 whatever you want to put behind it. And that keeps us prisoners to the past. Retelling old stories focus on then, when we could be investigating a new now. I've always, it's an invitation to stay comfortable in our discomfort, like we're stuck in a rut. And being stuck in a rut, I do not find comfortable. I want to be, what you might say, free-moving, moving forward. It takes courage and willingness to stay conscious, to unravel ourselves from our old patterns and open to new, larger perspectives. That's why I know I say that a lot about Ernest Holmes saying, staying open at the top. Staying open to all new things and releasing the old. The facts of up until now haven't changed, but we're not stuck in them. This is a new creative movement, a new creative moment, a new beginning to not be stuck in that rut, but to move forward. Science of Mind teaches us to identify the issue we'd like to change, not denying it its reality, but denying its power. Again, not denying its reality, because if something's going on, it is real. But we deny the power that it has over us. Because in the one statement that Stephanie always uses on her when she does her talks about, these things have no power over us. Personalities, that's the big one, I think. To me, is the personalities have no power over us. Other people have no power over us. And this has no power over us. It exists, yes. So here's, I'm going to go through 4 ways to acknowledge your past. To, know that it was there and move on. The first thing is, your past does not define you. You are not your past. You are, to me, what all your different past lives have come together to be. You are growing each day, each moment, into that person you are at this moment. And you're going to keep on growing. I say that once I stop learning and growing, then it's time for me to lay down and leave this world. Because I cannot see being here and not being able to learn and grow. Carrying emotional baggage may not be new to many of us. I believe that isn't. The weight of the burdens we carry on our bare shoulders may be a lot heavier than we lead on. But don't have to carry them alone. When you start to acknowledge that your past is where it should be, that is, in the past. It's not here, not now, but in a time way back then when. You may feel a little bit lighter, a little more hopeful that every day is a brand new day, and a little bit more relieved that you are free to start again. So once we release this baggage, let it go, take it to the thrift store, let them have it. You feel lighter. I know when I'm weighed down physically, emotionally, and once I move past that, I know I feel lighter, physically and emotionally. So that's the idea about your past that doesn't have power over you, or it doesn't define you. Number two is everything you went through has led you to where you are today. And I firmly believe that. I look back at all the experiences, I guess you might say, that I had in my life. All the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was some pretty bad, there was some pretty ugly. And that's why I'm grateful I'm alive. In so many ways. I mean, it's from the drinking, all these different things that we experience, that I experienced. I do not want to go through again. I never want to go through that. But I cannot forget what I went through to get here, because then I'm more apt to fall back into that rut. But each and everything, even the ugliest things, when you're through it and you look back on it, something came out of it. You learned something. Because I believe we're learning creatures. And looking back, things may have been bad. And we don't want to downplay the experiences that we had to go through, because only we know how much the incident can affect us. I don't know what you went through. I mean, you can share it with me, but I cannot experience it the way you did. And you cannot experience it the way I did. So by hindsight, we probably won't be who we are today without our past. The days sometimes were dark, yes, but I am a firm believer that the events in our lives are truly meant to shape us. Just like a baby, when each day and when they're young and they start to get hold of the body, and they get there where they can hold their head up, otherwise they're just flopping around like a wet noodle. They learn their body, and then they learn to move. They learn what amazes me is when they find their toes, their feet, their fingers, just to watch them. And then they learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk, and they stumble and fall as they're doing it. My youngest sister, I swear to God, that poor girl fell so many times when she was learning to walk. It's amazing that she doesn't have permanent injuries. But yes, we, as infants and as young children, and as we go on and on, we experience life, sometimes just on life's terms, because sometimes we don't really have any control on certain things that happen in our lives. Whether it was the people who supported us during these periods, or the tough decisions we had to make, something changed us. Something changed you. It may have been a little thing, or it might have been a huge thing. I know there were some things in my life that were huge. And I firmly believe if I hadn't had the opportunity and the divine push, I wouldn't be here today. Because sometimes we need that old proverbial 2x4. We need something to wake us up, to slap us in the face. In AA, it's called hitting, in the 12-step programs, it's called hitting bottom. And we don't have to be an alcoholic or a drug addict or any to hit bottom. We can hit bottom in our own lives, just, you know, when it seems like everything in the world, in our lives, is going wrong. I believe that's another form of bottom. Because the only one, once you hit bottom, the only way is up. So, the third one is you can't change the past, but you can change the present or future. You know, sometimes I've been asked, you know, if you could go back, what you would, you know, what you would do differently. And I think about it and say, would I really do that differently? If I knew what I knew now exactly, I probably would do certain things differently. And maybe better. Probably better. So I was once told, and I'm sure everybody's heard this before, don't go backwards. And think about what went wrong or what not. Because nothing good will come out of it. If we go back and we think about, okay, you know, what could I have done differently? I mean, that's, if you look at it in a positive sense, yes, next time I could do this differently. But you can't go back and undo what's been done. I think so many of us want to do that, wish we could do that. But that's not the way it works. I don't know why we get so obsessed with thinking about the past when we literally have zero, and that's the big goose egg, control over it. We can't, like I said, we can't go back and change it. All we can do is be in the now, and if the same thing comes up now, you can actually use the past as a reference. Okay, what did I do then? Up until now, I've always done it this way. Maybe an alternative is, well, I'll do it this way, try this. And just like when we pray and we ask for something, and we may get exactly what we asked for, and then we go, well, that wasn't really quite what I wanted. So guess what? You can pray for what you really wanted. But by getting what you thought you wanted, found out what you really wanted. And that's one of the hardest things for me to answer. One of the hardest questions is, what do you really want? To me, that's one of the hardest questions for me to answer. I'm working on it. I'm working on it, you know. The past is long gone. Even 10 minutes ago, it's gone. It's just, it is. And we are now living in a different space, also known as the present. So 10 minutes ago we were there, right here and now we're in the present moment. And so many of us, I have to say, I am so guilty of it, we live in the past or the future. But we future trip. We worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to this and that in the next week, 10 days or whatever. But we don't try to stay in the now. And I don't quite understand that. Because the now can be wonderful. And I've said this before, one of the biggest experience I've ever known in my life of being in the now is after jumping out of an airplane. I mean, those first few seconds, you know, and the realization that you are plummeting to Earth from 14,000 feet in the air, where else are you going to be? You can't be anywhere. I wish I would have put a record of what was going on in my head, because I don't know if anything was going on, because it was like, it was a fantastic experience. But if we could just do that in our daily life, if we're reading something, if we're writing, or if we're talking. I know one of the biggest things too, when we're talking to someone, sometimes our minds are going on somewhere else. We're not paying attention. to the person we were talking with. I've gotten to the point where I don't like to say, it was nice talking to you. I like to say, it was nice talking with you, because that's a back and forth conversation. To you to me, is limited. So I try to correct myself in that, but it's nice talking with you. It's nice being with you. Or maybe it wasn't. So, we're always thinking about the past or the future, but we're not talking about that now. But how much are we actually living in the present? That's a good question to ask yourself in say in meditation. Just ponder that thought in one of your meditations. How much do I live in the now? And then, what can I do to change that? What can I do to improve that? The fact that we can change how we feel, react or think in the present. We can change how we react to something, or we respond. I like to respond better than to react, because to me to react is kind of maybe a negative thing to me, but it may be different to you. In this very moment, it should empower us to pack our trunks and move out of the past. Pack up those trunks, get some steamer trunks, pack them up, and ship them off to wherever, to the great nothingness, to where they belong. Because we don't need to carry them around anymore. We don't need to strap them on our backs or hold them in our arms so that we're so weighed down we can't move. Maybe being in the present could help us lighten our emotional baggage too. Because we carry emotional baggage around every day. We carry all kinds of baggage around. This is not always easy. But remember, if we take baby steps, once like that baby, once they get up, and they take 2 steps and fall, next time, get up, maybe they'll take 3 steps and fall. Or maybe they'll take 1 step and fall, So we can go forward, but sometimes we slip back, but there's always room to go forward, always. And the fourth idea, how to acknowledge your past, is to think about growth. Growth to me is an important thing. Even though it may not feel like it, you are growing. Some of us, sometimes we grow physically, but we're growing inside, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. A lot of people love to read. That's a tool that they use to grow. Myself, I struggle with reading. I've struggled with reading all my life. I do audiobooks, which are awesome. And for me, music is a great teacher and a great way for me to grow, as long as I hear the words right. Because I've been known to, for years and years, a few songs I thought these were the words, and come to find out they're not. And it's like, all these years, I heard them, but I heard something different. And I do that with things on TV too. You can ask Reverend Mom, I said, did he say this, or did she say this? He said, no. So sometimes I don't know how I'm hearing that. But the idea of growth, idea of each day becoming, I guess, better, to becoming richer in our life. Even though it may not feel like it, that we are growing. Like that little seed, you don't see it once you plant it, but it's growing underneath. It's getting its little feelers to all of a sudden pop out, and that's what we do. You have been growing all this time. When you think about the past, think about growth. Don't focus on all the events that took place, or the unanswered questions that that you may still have, but think about how you got out of a situation stronger and more resilient. Because a lot of these events, these situations that we're in life, they do make us stronger. And that's growth. And we need to be strong in this life. Not physically, but strong emotionally, mentally. Emotionally is a powerful strength to have. Think about the things you would tell your younger self. That is, I love that, because there are many things I would tell my younger self. And one of them I brought up a while back because I have back issues, and I would say, lift with your legs. Ask for help. Those are a couple of things I would definitely tell my younger self, because when I was like 16 and on, I was lifting quarter sides or half, sides of beef and different things like that. I was like 150 pounds, and I wasn't a muscle man, but I had to do this to work, and all through my life, and not ask for help. That is the craziest thing in the world, and I still sometimes don't, but I do. I'm learning. I'm what? Almost 73. And I'd probably be learning till the day I die, I hope I am. So telling yourself, your younger self, just think about it. That's another good thing to take in. What would I tell my younger self? And would I beat myself up over that? You may think you are past learning, but you don't have enough time in your life to grow. That's kind of a bunch of bull. My first partner was dissatisfied with the job he had, and he had tended bar younger in his life, and he really enjoyed it because the interaction with the people. And he said about going to bartending school or school or whatever. He said, well, I'm too old for that. There's not enough time. I said, well, what if you could take even a year, even 2 years, and do something that actually you loved, that you enjoyed, and fulfilled you? Wouldn't that be worth it? To me, it would be worth it. Do something that in our movement here, there's a lot of ministers that didn't go into ministry until they were, older, let's say, in their 50s and even in their 60s. I was in my 50s. I believe, yes. I have to think back. Where was I? And that's a big thing, because that's a huge commitment, because of all the training and the schooling and everything you have to go through. But it's worth it, yeah. And remember, you can do this at your own pace. You don't have to rush. You're allowed to take your time. Sometimes, you've got to stop and rest. Like when you're doing some kind of work. Like if you're working on the computer for a long time, you need to take a break. You don't have to do everything at once. Listen to me. I really should listen to my talk sometimes, because it's a really good, it's like do as I say, not as I do, and that's it. That's another thing. It's a learning process. So the next time you replay a traumatic episode in your head, whether it's because you stumbled upon something that may have triggered you, or your inner demons are trying to play a trick on you, just remember to take some deep breaths. And remind yourself that you do not have to live in the past. The past does not define you. The past does not own you. You are here now, and here is a much better place. while we can be tempted to stay comfortable in our discomfort, and those somehow we do that sometimes, you know, because we know what's going on, we know what's going to happen. It's these things that we're afraid of, like a job interview or something new. We play all these things in our head, what's going to happen. We know everything that's going to go on. Every question is going to happen. And then we get there and, oh, that wasn't so bad, was it? And no, it wasn't. It's time to accept Spirit's invitation into the new, unlimited possibilities of the present. So let's set the intention to shine the light of our consciousness into our old, less than conscious habits of thinking and doing. Let's replace our old story of I've always with the new script of up until now. I don't live in the past. I don't have to live in the past. Like you say, the past does not define me. The past does not own me. I live in the now. I am present in this now. And so, for life work, as Stephanie likes to call it, which I like that better than homework,